So in an earlier video, you guys saw me kind of take a closer look at this guy and try to figure out if the motors were bad or if the ESCs were bad. Today we're going to go and try to see if we can diagnose it a little bit further and get it fixed. So let's go. Alright, so as many of you know, this has been falling out of the sky because of a motor desync issue. So I have some spare motors. If that's not the case, I don't have a spare ESC, so if the ESC is bad, that's going to have to be changed another day. But let's go ahead and find out, first off, which motor it is. I think it's this one. So let's go ahead and fire this thing up and find out if that's the problem motor or not. And I want to run a few tests on it. So yeah, anyway, it's plugged into a power supply, current limited. I have the props on. I'm going to start it on the bench. Do not do this. This is dangerous. This is current limited, and I'm going to put it down to like 0.5 amp or something. So I only want it to just spin up and idle. I don't want it to, you know, throttle up or anything like that. So don't do this. Okay, so as you can see, it wanted 1 amp. I'm feeding this 25 volts because it's a 6S. So let's go ahead and turn this guy on. Okay, so again, do not try this at home. And as you can see, it doesn't like 1 amp, so we're gonna have to turn that up a little bit. I'll give it 2 amps, and I'll give it a little bit more voltage here. All right, so that's 25.6. Let's try that again. And I bumped it up to 2 amps just to get this thing going. As you can see, the problem motor is, definitely this one. So as you can see, the front left motor was bad, but just so this is easier, so you don't need to figure out which motor's doing what when I'm taking this apart, I marked it with some tape. So the first thing I want to look at is getting these props off. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, and the first thing we're going to do is unplug this guy from power. I'm going to go ahead and take this prop off. Again, most of the time when you're working on these, you want props off. You don't want to be spinning this stuff up. So I am pretty much taking a significant risk because of reasons. All right, so that's off. That's the motor. And the other thing I'm going to do is remove this canopy and desolder this motor. Yeah, so this is 2mm. I'm going to go ahead and remove the 4 top screws. So some of the other things that I want to do with this craft, and I don't think I'm going to get to it today, is I'm going to add Crossfire to it. As you can see here, I got a Crossfire antenna mount that I made. If you're interested, I'll put a link in the description below to the Thingiverse where you can go ahead and download that and print it out for free. Just note, when you're putting this on here, I made it so that it fits over these kind of shrink wrapped wires. So if you print it out and wonder why it's kind of floppy, that's why. I mean, I guess I could rework it if you absolutely need it to just fit over the wires. But yeah, there's that. So again, in an earlier video, I had showed this where we hooked a drill to this, and all these motors were given back relatively the same voltages, and I'll link that video here. So that's one thing. I mean, I guess I could pull this off and test it again. Part of me thinks that the motor is fried. We're not sure. Why is this? There it is. All right. So now that we got this off, put this guy off to the side, right there. So let's go ahead and take this flight controller out. So yeah, a couple of things that I want to do is I want to replace the receiver and put Crossfire on it. And I also want to replace this VTX. And the reason I want to do that is because I think that's just a little too thick to fit underneath this plate here. The other thing I got to do is flip this guy over and loosen this motor up, because we're going to take it completely off, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the new motor and just kind of put it on there and spool it up and see if it's still getting those desyncs. If we have to, we can go ahead and check the ESC. But this is, I really think it's the motor, even though the earlier motor test didn't say it was. For whatever reason. Okay, so the flight controller is loose. And it's still... yeah. Okay, so that's far enough out of the way to get in there. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and remove this motor. And to do this, I'm going to use the... this is the T15D12, I think. Yeah, T15D12. It's a 1.2 millimeter chisel tip, and that should give us enough heat to really remove these a little easy. After a while, solder will oxidize a bit and become harder to heat up and remove. And this is never more apparent than if you're dealing with lead-free solder. But this is not lead-free. So sometimes it helps to add some solder to the solder joint to move things along, but I think this will be all right. Actually, part of me wonders if that was the issue.
Welcome to OpenTX. Switch warning.
Interesting. Okay, so I just plugged this back into 25 volts, and something has smoked. And I don't know what. So there is definitely something going on here. Yeah, you can see there's definitely some issues going on here, because I'm getting some smoke. Interesting. Very interesting. I can smell it. So, let's start breaking this thing down and find out what is going on. Because remember, all we did was pull the top off and check the... Alright, so Interesting. So all we did was take the top off, and I just kind of hit these motor wires with, I just dragged in between them because it almost looked like they were bridged. So why this is smoking, I don't know. But I wonder if there's a problem with the ESC for real. So let's dig into this thing and find out what is going on. Because I don't like the fact that something just smoked and I have no idea yet what it is. Okay, so let's pull this up. And usually this is not a good idea to have like loose components like this. But yeah, I don't know what the heck happened here. Alright, so nothing is touching. Let's I'm gonna fire it up one more time and see. Interesting. So it appears that the flight controller has an issue. I just saw smoke coming from it. And it won't power on. And this is weird because this is a 6S setup. And I'm not feeding it any more than 6S. So let's start pulling parts off this thing. Interesting. I wonder if that's why we're having issues with this motor. Okay, let's pull this off because this is now a project. Alright, let's pull this guy up. Alright, so because this thing is so screwed up right now, let's remove all these props because they're in my damn way. Yeah, so this video just got a lot more involved. Interesting. Interesting. Well, I'm glad I marked that motor so that later on when we come back to it, we know which motor this is. Yeah. Also, the other thing here is these are reverse rotation props. So if for some reason I put this back together and you guys catch a video of this thing flying all weird, flipping out, you can yell at me for not remembering to put them back on properly. But anyway, this is so I think we fried a flight controller, which I don't know how. Doesn't make sense, or maybe it does. I mean, maybe that's the underlying issue. Maybe there was something wrong with the wiring on the flight controller, and that's causing desyncs. And now, for whatever reason, it just decided to let go. I don't know. But let's take a closer look now that we have this kind of up here. All right. I don't see anything yet. don't see any bridged motor wires. I don't see any. I do see a stray wire off of this motor. That, mildly concerning. Not bad. I don't think that was our problem, but it exists. So if I can get in there and cut it off, I will, without cutting the sheathing. So as far as like components or whatever, like I don't see, even after I just sit here and watch this thing smoke, I don't see anything that's burned. I've got one suspect. This guy right here looks like it possibly could have been melting. I don't know, but this is success. This is another bad idea. I don't suggest this, but I'm going to just hold this and see if I can get it to fire up. Maybe I can find out where the smoke is coming from. Because hitting it with 25 volts, it's not, that's what it should get. So it's only sending 3 volts. We're getting nothing from the flight controller at all. Alright, so after hitting this with 25 volts again, this guy gets super hot. And anytime that you're trying to find out what component is bad and the board's already fried itself, if you you can touch the board, and if you feel something hot, that's the problem, or at least that is the that will lead you to the problem. So we can check the traces back and see if we can find a short or something like that. The issue that I see is I don't have the schematics for this board, so I don't know exactly what connects into that part there, but there's something definitely going on. So yeah, we're gonna have to figure that out. But I'm gonna start removing pieces that I can safely remove. So like we're gonna get rid of this receiver. This I can put off to the side. The receiver is fine. So I want to check that the receiver is grounded. It's powered by 4 volts. It's green wires to R1 and then T1 to the yellow wire here. R1 and T1. Okay, so that's where I'm going to start. I'm going to remove the receiver first, and it doesn't, to me, look like anything is wrong there. What is going on here? This might have been a short here. I think this might have been our problem. What is this wire? So we got... Yeah. I think I found a short. Why it would do that, I don't know. But I've got this wire here. If I can bring this in here, I'll show you exactly what I think might be going on. And I don't know why I would have done it, but I've got this green wire here. This is my T. Okay, so this is my smart audio wire, and I've got this going to T2. The problem that I see here is I stripped it just a pinch too long, and it kind of wraps around the board, and it almost looked like it was touching this yellow wire here. So what I think might have happened is possibly, maybe, I give it like a 20% chance of actually happening, but maybe these two connected. I don't know. If I pull that off like that, we can see. The other thing that I can do here is remove this entirely. Like, I think that's an issue, and I'm taking this off anyways. So why don't we do that? I'm going to desolder this wire and see if that was indeed the problem. So let me go ahead and plug this in. Because what is going on, like I know the flight controller is already fried, and I know this part gets hot. It's not totally done. So my plan is to desolder that wire and hit it again with voltage. And if it's still getting hot, then we know that the short still exists. And if it's no longer getting hot, then we know that was the problem. Or the or the thing finally just let go. But I don't want to just go pull this apart and then have no idea what's going on. So we've removed T1. That's a smart audio wire, so I'm not going to worry about removing the rest quite yet. Okay. Okay. I want to put the antenna back on this just in case. I don't want to blow this VTX up. Okay. So now we're going to flip this back over. We want to make sure that we're not shorting anything else. I'm going to hold this kind of up and out of the way like that. Just because I want access here to be able to touch this to see if it's still getting hot. So let's go ahead and hit it with 25 volts again. Oh, and that's still getting hot. Okay. This other one, cool to the touch. This one, hot, hot, hot. So we know that the short still exists. That smart audio was not the issue. And like I said, I only gave that like a, 20% chance, something like that. Okay, so let's see what else we've got. We have a VTX wire. We've got a ground here. That's fine. I'm going to go ahead and remove those. Because again, I don't think those are the problem. Those look fine. So let's do that. We're going to remove this ground wire. Oops. Come on. There we go. Okay, that's the ground wire. And then we got a VTX wire there. Let's flip this over and check the other side. And make sure our power wire, which is the only other thing holding this VTX on, is not shorting anything out. So let's go into VBAT. That is fine. These guys are wrapping around the edge. I wonder if the edge of this board is conductive somehow. I'm going to test that in a moment. If this board is conductive at all, the mistake I made here, you can probably see it right there. Come on, focus please. Focus please. Yeah, okay. So you can see right here, this wire again is stripped just a little too long, that red one, and it's touching the side of the board. So if this side of this board is conductive at all, that'll give us a problem. And there's another problem too. This wire just broke. That wire just broke. I don't see that that was an issue. Oh, maybe, because this guy got hot. You can see that there's a little melty mark on it there. I wonder if somehow the VTX wire broke and was shorting up against the ground here, and maybe even shorting up against here. Maybe this guy heated up and caused a little melty mark there. I'm gonna have to test this VTX to see if it's still good or not. That's another video. I wonder if that's what happened. This wire just went bad and just arced out a bunch of stuff, and that might be our underlying issue. Interesting. So maybe now that that's removed, I'm gonna leave this alone. I know that's a hot wire right there. I'm just gonna put this off to the side, and I'm gonna hit this with 25 volts again and see if our short is still there. And again, this might be fried to the point where there's an internal component that now has fried and is continuing to ground itself out. So this might be for naught, but I'm curious. And curious usually, I don't know. So that's getting hit again with 25 volts. And I feel like I just saw smoke. And that is still getting way hot. So let's kill the 25 volts there. So we either A, still have a short, or B, this flight controller is so screwed no matter what we're going to do, it's still going to do that. Because I'm not even getting any lights on the front of this. Let me just test that. Yeah, so we're not getting any lights or anything at all. So this thing's screwed. But I just wanted to test to see if that was an issue. So carrying on, let's remove, what do we have here? These are our wires from the PDB, ESC. Those are our main power leads. I want to check those. But first I want to remove this receiver. And that's just to run that check one more time to see if this is still getting hot or not. And I don't see anything of issue here. And we got R1, R2. Yeah, so let's pop this receiver off quick and give it a check afterwards. I do not think at all this receiver contributed to the problem. All these solder points look good. Oops. But it's good to run a quick check. So I wonder if our motor desync issue was not an issue with the motor or the ESC, but it was an issue with the flight controller or a short in the flight controller. Anything's possible. Anything is possible. Now I don't like the discoloration here. I mean, anything is possible, but you know, it is what it is. So with that, one more time, I want to fire this up and find out if there's still an issue. There's a 25 volts, and I'm going to see if that part gets hot again. And that is still getting hot. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to do is remove these motor signal wires. And we got a camera wire here. I don't think this is doing anything either. But I do think is if anything, I think it's the main power that went into here. Or maybe it's just a bad flight controller. I don't know. I mean, it's I don't see any issues with what was soldered so far. Baffling. All right, so let's remove the motor signal wires and go from there. I'm also probably going to rewire the PDB so I have longer wires. Okay, so that's one. That's two. That's three. That's four. Okay. So now the only thing that we have left is the power from the PDB. Let me see if I can remove these wires off the side here. I wonder if that's the issue. I mean, at this point, like I said earlier, I think the flight controllers have to be on repair. But I just wonder if I can remove a short and see if I can at least get this to stop heating up, which I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's done. So let's hit that again with some voltage. And this guy is still getting hot. Okay. So the one thing that I did want to do is check the board, and I don't think it is, but I want to check the board for continuity to see if one of these wires, because they're cut, they're stripped a little bit long, and then they wrapped, and they touched the side of the board as they came across. So let's say the pads here, they went like this, and then they kind of wrapped and touched the side of the board. So if that is at all, if that is conductive at all, then that probably is the problem. So do I have this plugged in? I do not. What can I unplug? This is the problem. I got too many plugs here. So we're gonna turn off the soldering iron, turn this guy, and turn this guy on. There we go. So I want continuity. So I don't know if you can hear that or not, but that's a buzz. So I'm gonna put this as close as I can here and see if I can't get some continuity, specifically from like this power lead or something like that. Okay, so this is, as expected, non-conductive. And I was just wondering if like there was a trace or something close to the edge that was allowing that to happen. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and remove these wires, and we're gonna see if we're gonna see what else is going on here. So let's remove those. Because what I do want to do is, once we get these removed, I want to check these wires and see what kind of voltage is coming out of them. This should be this should be a 12-volt wire. So I just want to check to make sure I am getting 12 volts out of it, and not some whatever voltage. Because it's also possible that the PDB is one of the regulators could have fried or something like that, and I could be getting more than the voltage that it's supposed to be sending. So I need the power and the ground here, and we're still connected. So get my multimeter is plugged back in. And we want voltage. Okay. So I'm testing with the camera here. What's going on? Come on. Come on, GoPro. For real? Okay, so we are on voltage. I'm gonna go ahead and fire this guy back up. Okay, we weren't getting that before, so something is definitely wrong between the flight controller and the ESC. What I do want to check here is the voltage coming out of these wires. So I got my ground and my positive, and is this VBAT? VCC current. Okay, does this thing not like voltage constant? Yeah, that's VBAT. I gotta check that, because that's getting what I'm putting into it. I'm getting, as you see, if I check this, we're getting 25.21 volts. and I'm hitting it with 25.23 with a preset of 25.2, and I don't think a 0.01 or almost 0.02 variance of voltage should fry a flight controller. So that's interesting. As we can see, let's see what's coming in direct here. We've got, let's see what's going on direct here. If I check this direct at the pad, we are getting, there we go, 25.219. Okay, so that is VBAT. We're not losing anything there. I'm just checking to make sure we don't have any spurious voltage here. What's our current? What's our current wire telling us? Okay, so we're not getting anything weird coming out of the current line. So that should just say signal. We're getting 3.26 volts out of our motor signal wires. 3.25. 3.25. 3.25. And why was this one 3.26? Okay, a little off, but whatever. So that's interesting. How about this guy here? Are you getting the proper voltage? I think I hit this with conformal. So that's just going to be on top. 25.21. So everything here is working as it should. So maybe my problem was a faulty flight controller. So let's take a closer look at the flight controller to see if we got any indication of what was causing that. And I don't know if I unplug this. So I don't know. So this is why I marked this motor, as you can see, because it just one problem led into another problem, led into another problem. So maybe the entire time this thing was getting ready to let go, and then the component that was getting hot finally just, whatever, peace, I'm out. So that's why I marked this motor, so that we know that when we put probably a new flight controller on this, that this motor was a problem, and if it's fixed, great. If it's not, it's not, but at least we know this one was a problem at one point. Okay, so I'm going to put this to the side. I don't know that I have enough time today to rebuild it, and that sucks. And I really liked the this flight controller. And I have some Maytech F722s somewhere. I do have Flight 1, but that's on a... Oh, what would you do? Would you make this a Flight 1? Because I do have a Flight 1 Cricket. And I have a couple of Maytech F722s. Wow, I don't have many flight controllers. Yeah, so what would you guys do? I definitely don't have time to build this today. But yeah, would you make this a Flight 1? Or would you just go with another Maytech? Even though this is a Lumineer Lux, this is still a Maytech flight controller. It takes Maytech firmware. So yeah, let me know. And so yeah, I think I see a couple of hot spots on this. But yeah, let me know what you would do. I think I'm going to get another Lumineer, or I might try something else and throw it on here. But I think this guy is still safe. Not quite certain, but I do want to rewire it almost entirely, because some of these are short, some of them are long, and unless I go with this same flight controller, yeah, so I want to rewire all that. So let's put that to the side. So I want to take a closer look at this flight controller, and if I'm wrong with any of this stuff, please correct me in the comments below. I am not the expert I am still learning, and I want to pass that knowledge on as I learn. And I always feel like some of the best way to learn is to teach or be wrong on the internet. So, with all that said, let's go ahead and I'll share what I know or what I'm very confident I think is, and I'll show you why I think the way I do here. So this here works as a 5-volt regulator. Okay. This here works as a 3-volt regulator. So I think the 3-volt regulator itself is burned out. And how I can show you that is if I put this guy down here. I've got my multimeter here. Hopefully you can hear that. So if I put this on the 3-volt pad here and go over here and touch the side of this voltage regulator, you don't hear anything here. Okay, you don't hear anything here, but you do if I touch some of these. I don't know if these are resistors or capacitors. They're super tiny. I can barely see them. If I touch any of these are resistors. I believe these are capacitors. I'm not sure what these are. So again, please, if you know, let me know in the comments below. So if I'm touching these resistors on this side, I can get continuity to this 3-volt pad. I am not getting continuity if I touch each side of this. As you can see, the voltage regulator is getting me continuity on each side. If I touch these resistors, I believe I can get some of them to give me continuity here. And this is probably be easier if I put this up on the, let me do that. So if I go over here on the 3-volt pad, bottom left of the screen, okay, if I hit some of these regulators, they will give me continuity. So that's why I think this is the 3-volt regulator and that this is the 5-volt regulator. Now if I look for continuity with this one to a 5-volt pad, okay, there's that 5-volt pad there, and I got another one over here, so I'll hit this one. See, I don't have, oh, there it is. Okay. Yeah, so if I go over here and hit this one, you see I also got continuity. So this is definitely the 5-volt regulator, and this is still intact. This 3-volt is done. But here's the problem I'm seeing. Now watch this, right? So this is connected here. If I go up here and touch VBAT, uh-oh, that's not good. If I go over here and touch ground, uh-oh, that's not good either. So this is giving me a direct short from ground to VBAT, and that's why this thing gets hot as soon as we plug it in. So what caused that? I don't know. That fried, allowing a constant short to VBAT. So now every time we plug in, and that's why the flight controller no longer works, because all the power, instead of going to this and then powering the flight controller, is now going straight back to the battery. So what I think is this flight controller is still good. And what I did, I plugged this into the USB port and it fired right up. Everything seems to work. So I think what is happening is this 3-volt regulator, not only does it supply 3 volts to this pad, but this is also what's running the flight controller itself. So I think if we go ahead and replace this regulator, that this flight controller will still work. And if I can get a hold of another one, I need the part number or whatever. I think because it's only soldered on by 2 pads, I can just hit one side and then kind of lift it up and then hit the other side, pull it off, and then resolder on a new one, and then this flight controller is still good to go. So I think I'm going to do that. You know, I don't know when. I did order another one of these, so that's that. And we'll revisit this at another date. I refuse to be done with this guy because I think this is within my abilities to repair. And you know, I feel like you guys might be interested in seeing, you know, just what happens. See, you can see the steps that I took to figure out what happened and to find out if I'm right or not. And I really think I am. So I think that's going to make a fun video and just kind of a fun little side project So, yeah. Anyway, with that, if you enjoyed this video, if you found it helpful, give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't done it already, if you're interested in seeing this repaired or seeing how we find the parts or what we can pull them off of, just go ahead and punch that subscribe button, because you only get to do it once and it's fun. And I'll catch you later. Peace.